What is going on to all my movie fans out there, and welcome back to my channel, MovieFiles. Today we are discussing the 5th film of the Evil Dead franchise, and we're talking about Evil Dead Rise. Now, got a chance to see this in theaters last night, and we're going to be talking about things I liked, things I loved, things I didn't like about the film, but ultimately, I'm going to let you all know if it's worth checking out in today's spoiler-free review. But first, let's talk about this in the comments. Let me know if you are a fan of the franchise, and if you were excited to see this new one. And of course, once you've seen the movie, let's talk pros, let's talk cons, but let's talk about the direction, the story, the performances. Did this feel like an Evil Dead film to you all, or were you left disappointed? And if you have seen all 5 films, how would you rank them? Let's talk about that in the comments section. And of course, if you all appreciated my review today, consider hitting the like button, sharing today's review, and consider subscribing to the channel. So as far as my fandom goes, I'm a fan of the OG Sam Raimi films. I really enjoyed 2013's Fede Alvarez's Evil Dead remake. So getting into this new one, when I heard they were making a new one, I wasn't all that excited because number one, I wanted them to continue what Fede Alvarez did in 2013, so I was disappointed there. But then when I heard it wasn't in the cabin in the woods, they're taking it to LA in a high rise, I'm like, well, what are they doing with this franchise? This isn't the Evil Dead that I know. But then, ladies and gentlemen, I can't think of a movie the last time this happened to me where I was lukewarm on this new one. But as soon as I saw that trailer, that Red Band trailer, I was sold. I'm like, okay, this is one of my most anticipated films for the rest of this year. So did it live up to those expectations? I want to start off with my positives, but I will say this. The first 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes were okay. I wasn't all that excited. I wasn't really like into what was going on with the family drama, and I'll talk more about that a little bit later in the review. But then at a certain point, I want to say the last 45 minutes to an hour, the film puts its foot on the gas pedal and never lets its audience go. The tone was so perfectly balanced to me with the thrills, the scary moments, the disturbing moments that we know from the Evil Dead franchise, which while that's on top of mind, you might be asking yourself, hey, Elliot, I've never seen an Evil Dead film. I don't know if I want to see this one. It's the 5th entry. I'm going to be lost. To address that problem, while there is homages, Easter eggs, and nods to the previous films, for us that have seen the films can appreciate that, but it shouldn't make you nervous or not want to see this film because you haven't seen the previous 4, because you don't have to have seen those films to understand what's going on here. So I just wanted to address that now. But getting back to what I was talking about with the positives here, I want to talk about my MVP and the character that completely stole this film. Now, the character goes by the name of Ellie. She's the mother of the children, the sister of one of our co-leads of this film, and she's played by Alyssa Sutherland. Never seen her work, not too familiar with her work, and her as Ellie, the mother, first 15, 20 minutes, we get a little backstory, what she's going through with her husband and her kids and her sister and all the family drama going on. That stuff was fine. Her performance was okay. But then Ellie turns on the switch, and if you've seen the trailer, you know Ellie gets possessed and she becomes the mother of evil. And when she becomes the mother of evil, oh my goodness, she was literally perfect as the demonic entity, as the mother. She was dark, she was twisted, she was cruel, she was pure evil. And I'm torn right now because, as I mentioned, I really enjoy that 2013 Evil Dead and the Mia character, but I'm telling y'all, it's a tie for me right now as far as seeing a character that you were kind of rooting for turn completely evil. She was fantastic, y'all. Like, there are so many great lines. Again, if you've seen the trailer, mommy's with the maggots, and there's so many moments where she just says some sick things to her children, and the things she does in this movie, ooh-wee, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the Mother of Evil. I want to see some cosplay, some costumes this Halloween, because she's iconic in my book, man. She's one of my favorite 6 sadistic characters so far in 2023. I'm such a big fan of her portrayal. And speaking of a big fan, I want to pivot over to the direction of this film, and as well as the writing. We have Lee Cronin, who I did see his first feature film. I believe it was called A Hole in the Ground, which was okay. But by the time he gets to this film, I feel like he definitely kind of sharpened his tools with this movie. Not only does he do a great job in recreating the Sam Raimi isms within this franchise, but then he also showcases his skills behind the camera, and I thought he did a great job, again, balancing the different kind of tones that we're used to in an Evil Dead film. This isn't as, hammy or campy as the original 3, and it is in the same tone as the 2013 as far as, like, There's funny moments, if you want to call it that, but it's mostly dark, sick, sadistic type of things going on. So I thought his writing was really well done, and I thought his direction was really solid in this film. So again, from his first film to this film, I don't want to say night and day, but you can see the progression as him as a filmmaker. So I thought he was great in that department. And speaking of the department, let's talk about the production of this film, which I thought was incredible. Whether it was the sound design, the practical effects. As a horror fan, I can't stress enough, Hollywood, can we get more practical effects? I'm talking about you, Renfield, which you can see my review for that. But the CGI blood versus the blood in this movie, which let me just go on a side tangent. I haven't seen so much blood in the movie. Of course, 2013 was bloody as hell, but It Chapter 2, which wasn't the greatest film, but that scene when there were Beverly's in the elevator and it was like just gallons of blood, this movie might have a scene that can challenge that. And it's a scene in an elevator that was, number one, an homage to one of my favorite horror films of all time, The Shining. But just the levels of violence in this scene and blood was just, again, practicality was just MVP. I love what they did on a production standpoint, as well as I mentioned, the sound design, the score is fantastic. So the production team did their thing, especially when it comes to a certain creature. I'll say that towards the end, which kind of actually brings me into the third act of this film, which is everything I want from an Evil Dead film. Bloody, violent, gruesome, incredible practical effects, and just the tension was all there. The third act, I can't complain about the third act. It's so unsettling. I love the third act so much. So let me get off my pedestal, let me get off my high horse and talk about some of the things that didn't work for me. I kind of briefly mentioned up top in regards to the first 15, 20 minutes, they're setting up the story with this kind of dysfunctional lack of communication between the two sisters, Beth and Ellie. Beth has been on the road. She doesn't really be there for her sister, but whenever she needs something, she goes to her older sister. And involving the kids and something going on with their father, all that stuff to me, I see what they were going for, but I feel like, and I don't know if this will ever be revealed, I feel like there was like 15 or 20 minutes left on the cutting room floor to really establish and really kind of give me an understanding of the dynamics of the relationship. Because if I'm being honest, as far as my criticism goes, it fell a little flat for me. It didn't really give me the fulfillment I was looking for to really make me believe, oh, this is a tight-knit family. Even though they have their issues, they're going to be there for each other. Because there's moments in this film where things happen to these members of the family, and the response of what happens felt a little dry. Like it was just like, this person, something really bad has happened to this person, and your response is kind of on a level 3 when it should be on a level 15. So I felt like there was more, for me, I wish there was more fleshing out of the character relationships and to really hit home that this is someone in a family I should be caring for, because I didn't really feel that emotional gravitas that I was looking for as what the film was trying to portray, because I felt like it was just bare minimum level of like, oh, I love you guys, let me hug you, protect my family. It was just very bare minimum, which again, that's where the first 15, 20 minutes tries to establish. I don't think they did a great job in doing so. Getting into my nitpicks, I won't reveal the opening of the film, but I wish the placement of the opening was somewhere else in the movie. I'm going to talk about that further in a spoiler review. And then when it comes to the acting, I talked about Ellie. Everyone else was fine. Beth was okay. When she kicks into gear in that second and third act, she was great in that moments. But again, the more dramatic stuff, wasn't the biggest fan of her acting there. The teens, we have Danny and Bridget and Cassie. Out of the 3 kids, I thought they did a really good job. She has some really good lines, some really great moments. But the Danny and the Bridget character, the dramatic moments didn't really hit for me. When something happens to them, I enjoy that element, but again, the more grounded stuff to me was a little bit lackluster. And of course, teens in these movies, they make some really dumb decisions, so I'm gonna let that pass by. But as far as the acting goes, I wasn't all the way invested in that. And then the last thing I'll mention, I do feel as though that they could have added a character that I'll talk about in the spoiler review that probably would have added a little bit more drama and more compelling nature to the whole family dynamic. Again, spoiler review coming soon, and I'll talk more about that. But those are the nitpicks. The biggest thing was I wish there was more moments to flesh out the relationships more. But outside of that, those are my main criticisms, and those are my positives. Before I give you all my score and let you all know if this is worth checking out, I really appreciate you all sticking on to this point in review. And just a reminder, if you're enjoying yourself, to hit the thumbs up, share today's review, and consider subscribing. Overall, as an Evil Dead fan, I got what I wanted out of this film. It's bloody, it's gory, it's brutal. I have one of my favorite characters now from this franchise in the Ellie character. I do wish the family dynamic was a stronger element of this film for my personal taste, but again, as far as taste, blood, evilness, demonicness, I was here for it all. I'm a big fan of this film, guys. So with that being said, I'm going to give Evil Dead Rise a 4 out of 5. I recommend you all give this a watch for, number one, my personal reasons. I want more. I want more stories from Lee and this set of characters. And when you see the film, it ends in a way where you can see more happening, especially if you've seen other films in this franchise. You can see where this one can go if they decide to move on. So please, just for my sake, can you go see it if we can get more of it? But no, taking my personal enjoyment out of this film, I do recommend you all give this a watch. If you're a fan of horror, if you're a fan of brutal horror, and just some really great practical effects, is worth watching. Now, if you're not a fan of horror, if you saw the trailer and you say this isn't my cup of tea, then no, it's not for you. But if you like to have a good time, you like to be freaked out, you like to have some weird imagery in front of you, this is the film to go check out this weekend. So hey, that's my thoughts on Evil Dead Rise. 4 out of 5. Give it a watch, and when you do, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Pros, cons, favorite moments, least favorite moments. Do you want more from this franchise? And again, if you've seen all 5 films, how would you all rank them? Let me know in the comment section. Again, I'll make a separate ranking video for you all to see my thoughts on the franchise. Thank you for watching today's review. Just a friendly reminder before you all leave to like the video, share the video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and of course consider subscribing to the channel. You all have been awesome. Hope you're staying safe. As you can see on the screen now, come and join the community. Check out my other reviews so far from this year. Check out my most recent review, and we'll catch you all on the next breakdown.